The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, my guests are Frank Delgado and Galen Young, the organizers of a Veterans Day commemorative event. And they're here to tell us about the Veterans Day Walk of Recognition.
I'm Lita Powell Drake, and we live in the Cornhusker State. So, am I a corn goddess? Margaret Barry is the real corn goddess, and she's going to be with us in just a few minutes, and we're going to look at her very creative artwork. Stay tuned.
Our skin. Do we give it enough importance? Please join me as I talk with dermatologist Dr. Margaret Sutton, who will explain why we should be paying more attention to the skin we're in.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, my guest, Lori McAdams of Bucyrus, Mazer & Love, will tell us about the importance and the procedures of making final arrangements.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, my guests, Frank Delgado and Galen Young, the organizers of the event, are going to tell us about the Veterans Day Walk of Recognition. What service were you guys in that you became such dedicated people that you do all this hard work to recognize the veterans? How about you, Galen? What service?
I was 17 when I went in. I ended up in the Seabees, and I got to go to Nam in 65 and 66.
You stayed in for 4 years, being in the Navy at least, huh?
I was in the Seabees.
Seabees, not the Navy. Okay, excuse me. How about you, Frank?
Graduated high school in 1970, went straight to the military. A year after that, found myself in Vietnam. Stayed on active duty for 8.5 years, and then joined the reserves for 6.
There you go. You mentioned that actually the guys that were in Vietnam with you, average age about 19.
19.
So you were one of the younger ones,
yes,
probably.
I was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, tell us about the Veterans Day Walk of Recognition, Frank.
We, Galen and I basically asked a simple question, why there was no Veterans Day parade. And we began this in 1999 with 3 people, and we had 2 other people walk with us partially. And it goes from Veterans Memorial Stadium. We go from there to O Street, from O Street to Centennial Mall, up to the Capitol, around Kaplan University, around Lincoln High. When we take 27th to A Street, and there we go into Antelope Park. And once we enter Veterans Memorial Gardens, we separate, because we usually walk in the column of 2, and we surround it, have a moment of silence, and that's it. It's about 3 miles long, yep. And it takes about an hour.
It's 3 miles long, and actually it ends up just about the time that the city's Veterans Day event at Alt Hall, whatever the heck that place is. But
we get there about a half an hour before their the city ceremonies, and we complement their ceremony.
Yes.
We don't compete with the city.
No,
we complement them.
I'll bet you bring in some folks, because there's quite a few people who participate in the march, and they just would stay for that veterans event, which, well, you've kind of said,
it's a walk, not a march.
No, that's right. And you mentioned how long it's been going on, so this will be your 18th year. Well, Galen, how much participation have you had there in this event?
We've had up to 86, I believe, is the highest count, but we encourage all veterans, no matter what era, to join us.
We've shown the fact that when you started out, there were 3. That's one of the pictures that'll show up on the screen. Started out with 2 brave veterans and you 2 guys. No.
All right, we'll get you.
No, actually, it was brave to even try to start it, frankly. So you did good. So, so again, there you go. There's a picture of the, and so your turnouts are in a cool November where you can't tell what the weather's going to be. So who's the sponsoring organization for this?
Well, we
It's right
we are
here,
a
the
committee.
whole sponsoring
We're a
organization.
committee of two. We make all the decisions, and no matter what, we will walk. No
And,
weather is going to stop us.
Yes, yes.
We've encountered all types of weather in reference to being in the military, so the weather is not an issue.
But no, that's right. This might get some guys out. But last year when it was raining so hard, a lot of your guys didn't show up, and I said that must be the Air Force guys. So they're not out in the weather like the Army is and the Seabees.
Yeah. We tell people to dress for the weather.
Yes, that's right. Dress for the weather. Well, are family and friends of the veterans allowed to march, Galen?
All veterans are welcome, and if someone wants to walk for some veteran who's not able to, they can join us too.
Yes, I believe Frank told me about that one vet, the one family who was walking for the.
Yeah, one year we approached the families and friends of people that were on active duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they were putting together their own event, and we invited them to walk for their son or father or daughter, and they joined us.
Yes, and then you also.
And they had a photo of that person.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
They had a photo
yes,
of that
yes,
person,
yes.
and we've had people walk for their grandfather from World War II
that's
or
that's
Korea.
the one I remember that there was walkers from the World War II vets even that were representing them. Well, how do the veterans and other participants get to join the walk? Do they have to register or anything?
No, just show up. We 9 o'clock at the southwest corner of Veterans Memorial Stadium. We'll step off at 9:30, and if you cannot walk that far, you're welcome to join anywhere along the route if it's only the last 3 steps.
That was kind of what my next question was going to be, is how does the march accommodate some of us older guys or the less able-bodied? And the way they do it is
our security is provided by the Patriot Guard. Plus in the past we have had buses and we've had vans, and we currently have people that have cars along the route. So if somebody for some reason cannot continue, we pick them up. No one gets left behind.
yes, that's the good military.
Yeah.
That's the military way, basically.
We'll cover it.
That's right. Well, this is called the Veterans Day Walk of Recognition. Do you and the marchers get much recognition?
Well, Kaplan University has been real good. There's been times when they've had a pretty good entourage out there as we go by.
Yes.
Lincoln High had a pep band that wanted to play a volley for us, and we stopped and listened to that and very much enjoyed it. And even the honks from the cars going down the street, we
now
appreciate
we have a
that.
picture of a couple of veterans saluting the flags as you guys go by, even though they're not. Even though they're not. But you get a lot of that from even the civilians that aren't veterans. They hold their heart as you go by with the.
We've had when we leave the stadium to O Street, we walk right by Embassy Suites. And on occasion, there's people from the hotel just standing there, and they recognize us.
Yeah.
That's
That's
good.
that's nice.
That is good. So how do you publish that there will be a walk, so that you can get the kind of participation that you've been getting? I mean, what do you...
The promotions, basically, we have a poster that we revise each year, and then we take that poster, provide it to the media, TVs, radio, press, Lincoln Journal-Star, and the UNL paper. And we contact all the veterans organizations. We send copies to the VA. And we've been fortunate in the past that the Vet Center has provided us with the use of their photocopier. So that's where the majority of our copies go.
That is one thing I would like you to bring up, is the fact that actually some of the businesses just volunteer some time for designing the posters and things like that. So consequently, we get a lot of business assistance, a little business assistance.
Little business, yeah. Roger Yant is the one that has the template, and he revises it for me with every year. And then we've had them in color, and but usually that costs a little bit more. So that's basically has come out of our pockets.
That's
but
it.
Primarily, it's black and white, though.
Yeah, you don't have enough sponsors to be able to afford the color ones, really, because it's you guys that are doing.
Well, if anybody knows a veteran, we want them to get that veteran down there so they can walk with us.
Yeah, that's right. And again, I also want the businesses in town to be recognized for what they do. Like Hy-Vee has breakfast, and Applebee's has lunch, and Golden Corral, and Brewski's does the end of the March thing or something.
Well, we have an arrangement where once we get done with the walk and the ceremony, we go to Brewski's in the Haymarket for lunch. And I've been in. I've known Brian Kitten for a long time, and he agreed to set us aside a place for whoever shows up. It's usually 20 or 30 people that show up, because other people have different things to do after the ceremony.
We veterans appreciate that recognition, as far as I'm concerned, you know. So especially since I've kind of been on a crusade for the fact that when the Vietnam vets like you guys came home, you not only were not treated well, you were treated badly. In a lot of cases, I have met 2 guys that were not served in restaurants because they were in uniform, because they were vets coming back. And so a couple of years ago, I walked with an individual from the Lincoln Convention and Visitor Bureau who said, you know, that the Vietnam Vet Reunion was trying to arrange outing in Lincoln, and they had this very high-profile entertainer volunteer to give a show out there. And they said, well, why? And he said, well, you know, I feel bad about the way things happened in that. And so the Convention Bureau, Visitor Bureau said, we got this guy who's willing to give the show here, and they chose not to come to Lincoln at that time, but they said that's the 4th guy who's done that, you know, where they have really felt different about the circumstances of what happened after Vietnam at the time. So again,
I didn't really get exposed to that because I stayed on active duty for like 8 years.
Yeah, you stayed
so
on.
I didn't go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
So I came home to Nebraska, and most Nebraskans didn't act that way. I know some did later on.
Yeah, some did. The guys I talked to were out in rural Nebraska, even where you'd think they'd really be accepted better than that. But anyway, well, I hope this discussion has informed our viewers enough that they continue to join the Veterans Day Walk of Recognition, because, again, I've been on kind of a campaign to say the Vietnam vets particularly need a walk of recognition. Not me, because I'm too old to be a Vietnam vet, but these guys.
But this is designed to recognize all veterans.
All
Veterans
veterans,
Day,
yep,
all
okay.
veterans. Veterans Day is for those that have served and survived.
Yes. So I want to thank my guests. It's Galen Young and Frank Delgado for telling us about the Veterans Day Walk of Recognition. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn, or to join the Veterans Walk of Recognition.
The Cornhusker Hotel has its first artist in residence in 90 years, and we're going to be seeing some of her unique work today on Live and Learn. I'm Lita Powell Drake, and with me today is a very special lady, Margaret Barry, and she used to be over at the Lux Center for the Arts, and also you were the executive director of the Lincoln Arts Council.
That's right.
Well, you've got a background in art. What is your background?
Oh, what is my background?
Yeah.
It's actually in a different field, but
So you're versatile.
I'm versatile,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, you call yourself the corn goddess. Why? Why would
Well-
anybody call themselves the corn goddess?
I was raised in Wahoo, Nebraska on a corn farm.
Oh.
My dad was a champion corn seed salesman the year I was born. And I just actually, I grew up surrounded by corn. So it just fits who I am, and it's actually what I like to do. I like that theme in art as well.
And yellow is a very good color for people with your color skin and hair.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now you began working at the Cornhusker Hotel on April Fool's Day. Is there any significance to that?
Well, actually not. It's no joke what I'm doing. It's actually a very serious commitment by the Cornhusker Hotel to connect with the arts in the community, and so it's a tremendous opportunity and a wonderful thing that they are doing as a business in our community.
And this is the first time?
This is the first time here at the Cornhusker
Now,
Hotel.
is this just for the Cornhusker Hotel guests, or is it for anybody? Can anybody
It's
come
for
in?
anybody. So during a day, I may see hotel guests, I may see people who are attending conferences, people who are there for lunch, people who work in the surrounding businesses, any number of people. It's totally open to everyone process.
All right, now, will you give us a sample of somebody who might have come into your shop there to see what you were doing?
Yes, I had a wonderful young man who was there on business, and he was going to be there a couple of days, and he popped in and he said, "Is your work for sale?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "And do you ever make special work for people? Because I need a birthday gift for my girlfriend." And I said, "Well, what do you think?" And he said, "Well, I'm kind of thinking a photograph of her, and you could work with it and enhance it and make it into a piece of art."
So he just gave you a little picture?
Well, on
something?
his phone.
On his phone?
Right.
Oh.
But I happened to notice a picture of her family, and I said, women are funny that way. They might not like their picture a couple years later, but her family will endure, and maybe we should do her family. And he was just thrilled with the way I took the photograph, I colorized it, I put wax on it, and made it into a piece of art. And
Is
anyway,
he in this picture?
No, he is not in this picture. This is her family.
Oh, her family.
From India. And anyway, I'm not sure that you can see all the detail, but I carved into the wax and then colorized certain portions of the photograph and made it into more of a piece of art instead of just a photograph.
That is beautiful. What a
Thank you.
special, very good gift. Now, can people just drop in? What
People
happens?
do drop in
Just-
all day, but if they want to actually work with me, then they need to make an appointment or see when I'm going to be there. I did have a family come in, a mother, a daughter, and the grandmother who was visiting from Japan. And so they set up a time with me to make art. And they just had the best time and produced really wonderful work. So that happens a lot.
Now, do you give them ideas? If they come in and not sure what they want, do you make suggestions?
Yeah, but I have so much art in my studio, they tend to gravitate towards something that I have and say, I'd like to make something like that. I do have samples, but most people are pretty quick about picking the colors and what they want to do.
Now, you're doing something new called Encaustic. It's rather rare. Why don't you explain this process?
It's actually an ancient process used by the Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians. So it's not new, but what is new is the way contemporary artists are using this art form to produce exciting new work and to cross disciplines within the arts as well. So basically, encaustic is the use of hot pigmented wax. In my case, sometimes I don't pigment the wax. I actually use it as a medium.
Where do you get the wax?
The wax. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Well,
ladies
for
and
those of you who
gentlemen.
may not know, this is what the bees produce in the hive to store the honey in.
That's the honeycomb.
Honeycomb. And when the honey's been extracted, the comb can be used for other things. Now, when I buy it from the local beekeepers, it looks like this. And I do use this in some of my work where it's appropriate to do that, where the coloring is right. But in general, I have to use a white wax, and I combine it with...
Where do you get, this is
This
bees,
white
it's all
wax.
beeswax, but
Right.
where do you get it?
This I get from the local beekeeper, and this I get from a candle company in California. It is a purified form of the beeswax. Now, we can't just use it like this because it's not hard enough and shiny enough. So we add Damar resin, which is basically tree sap to it. And
Now, wait a minute, what is that again? That's
it's
what?
called Damar
Damar
resin.
crystals.
Right.
That's what now?
It's tree sap.
Tree sap.
Right.
Oh.
And when
Okay.
we heat these two together, this becomes liquefied, and we get a harder, shinier medium to use, and it looks like this. You add oil paint to it, and you get little pots of paint like this. Obviously, this is not heated. And so that's the process. I use a lot of this just without the color, but I also paint with the color.
Well, no, people can't do that at home with all that stuff, can they?
They can if they come and work with me and I show them how to do it.
Okay, now, but you forgot.
Oh,
We
yeah.
forgot. See,
The most
this is
important thing.
The key, because she takes this blow
Right.
gun, you know.
And this is what makes it truly exciting.
yeah.
Is that I use a torch. A lot of encaustic artists do. Some of them use huge propane torches if they're working on a large scale. But this is a restaurant-sized butane torch. And so what we do after we've applied the wax to...
Well, wait, okay, now, let's, which piece of wax are we going to work with here?
Well, in this case, we're not heating this. We'd be heating a painting. Right. We'd have applied the wax to a painting, and then we would use this to move the wax around.
Oh, so you're going to
Right.
fire that up, and then that all becomes kind of a goo, and then you just kind of position?
Right. And it depends. If it becomes a goo, that you're applying a lot of heat. A lot of times we're using just a whisper of flame to melt just softly the paints together, or the whatever is on here.
Yeah. I
So
wish
no-
we could show you this process.
I wish we could.
But we could burn down 5 city
That's right.
television, you know, by that. So we can't show you the blowtorch.
Right.
Now, people have to have all this stuff, or do artists usually wind up with it?
Well, you do have to have these things to do it at home, but I also teach workshops, and you can come and experiment with it and see whether you like the process or not. But actually, people who live in apartments say, "Can I do this in an apartment?" I'm like, "Yes, but you have to work small, primarily."
And very carefully.
And very carefully,
Very
right.
carefully.
You can't catch those
And
curtains on
have
fire.
have the 911 number ready for the
Right.
fire department.
Right.
All right, let's take a look at some of the encaustic product.
Okay.
So let's start with, now, how did you do this? This is a leaf, an aspen leaf in wax.
Right. This is actually has a couple of, it's a collage process. So the bottom layer is a layer of lime green that was poured onto the board. You put masking tape around the board,
Now, this is a real leaf.
a real leaf.
Real leaf, okay.
So the first layer is green. The leaves are placed on top of the green, and then another layer, which I explained before, just the medium without the color, is poured on top of that. So it's actually a collage, a wax collage.
So you could do this with any leaf or any kind of flower
Right.
that you would like? Oh, wouldn't that be special?
I love-
That's really nice.
People make collages out of a lot of things.
Oh, okay, now we're going to take a look at something called a drip painting, and this is a different process by Margaret Barry. And so explain this process, if you will, Margaret.
So this is more the painting process. This is the encaustic medium that has had color, pigment, oil paint added to it. In this case, what I did is first paint the sky, and that's where I use the torch a lot to mix the whites and the blues to get a very smooth and very interesting surface. Then I took the painting on its side,
On its side, oh.
and basically, if this brush were liquid, I take the brush and just let it drip. And so I'm using gravity as my paintbrush on this one.
Oh, so it's just running down then?
It's running down. And so that's a fun thing to do.
And you're calling this a prairie ribbon.
A prairie ribbon,
It does
yes.
look like that.
Does it? Yeah, good.
That's a good thing.
It's always good when it looks like what it's called.
Okay, now we're going to look at something that everybody sees, hopefully every single day, which is the Sower.
Oh, yes,
the Sower
the
on top of
Sower.
our Capitol building.
The Sower, of course, is especially significant because we're heading into the 150th birthday of the state. And I've done a whole series called The Sower in the Sky. And as you can see, the background is a painted background, and a lot of the fire has been used to move the paint around and to create that interesting effect. The Sower is actually a collage in photo into the wax. So that's another process that I work, which is photographs. So collage, painting, photographs are my three primary ways.
And so you can make your own ready-to-hang artwork.
You can if you come in to work with me, if you take a workshop. I always believe in completing the projects, and because wax does set up so quickly, you're able to complete projects within the workshop.
Okay, so we invite you to come over to the Cornhusker Hotel and have a visit with Margaret. And remember, on the first Friday of every month, we've got the gallery walk. Come on over to the Cornhusker Hotel. That's anytime between 5 and 8 in the p.m. See what she's up to. You might be really interested in seeing some of the details. Her studio is on the first floor, and if you come in the north side, you walk right into it.
Right, from the parking garage, you just come right into it. It's actually outside the ballrooms. Most people have been in the ballrooms for an event.
Margaret, anything else you want to add for the good of the cause?
Well, I might mention that in addition to the individual sessions that people book in my studio, we do wax and wine Wednesdays.
You're not drinking
No, we're not drinking the wax, but we are drinking the wine on the last Wednesday of every month. And those are, I call that social wax time.
Waning and waxing.
Right, and for the serious artists who really, I'm not necessarily even artists, but people who want to learn the process, November 5th and 6th, that weekend we'll be offering 4 weekend workshops at the hotel. So if people want to know more about those, they can let me know.
Very good. The details then, if you would like to contact Margaret Barry at the Cornhusker Hotel, her email is mberry, B-E-R-R-Y, at cornhusker.com. You can stop by and see what Margaret Barry is up to now. And our thanks to Margaret Barry to be our guest on Live and Learn today.
Thank you, Lita.
And remember, it's never too late to live and learn about creative artistry.
Are you now or have you ever been a sun worshiper? I'm Kristen Stowes, and today I am pleased to welcome Dr. Margaret Barry of Sutton Ryan Dermatology, who will fill us in on why the sun is not always our best friend. Dr. Sutton, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Kristen.
Certainly. Could you please tell us a little bit about your professional background?
I'd love to. I'm a dermatologist. A dermatologist is a physician who has completed medical school and then gone on to complete a 4-year residency in dermatology, in which the time is spent really studying in depth all the diseases of the hair, skin, and nails.
So it includes a lot more than just the skin.
Yes, it does.
Would you agree that we really do not give our skin enough importance and attention?
Absolutely. The skin, of course, is the largest organ of the body. It has many functions, one of which is keeping us all together, because there's so much blood and fluid that would just be coming out if we didn't have it neatly packaged. Our skin also protects us from all the germs in our environments, some of the toxins in our environments, and maybe you didn't know this, but our skin regulates our temperature as well. It's a very complex situation in which our blood vessels of our skin are constantly dilating and constricting, trying to give off heat, conserve heat. So the skin is a very complex organ.
Yes, well, it is. It absolutely is. Let's look briefly at a graphic as you explain the skin and its function.
Sure. Well, the skin consists of 3 layers. The top layer is the epidermis, the middle layer is the dermis, and the bottom layer is the subcutaneous fat. And we study all 3 of these layers in our profession, in our specialty, and we find that you can have tumors in any one of those 3 layers. You can have abnormalities and rashes that occur in any one of those 3 layers. And so it's very fascinating because a tumor of the epidermis, for example, would look quite different than something in the fat.
I see. Okay, that helps orient us to our discussion, I think.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now going to put up a picture of a set of twins. Could you please explain how some of our lifestyle choices affect our skin?
I would love to. We're about to see a photo of twins, one of whom lives in Florida and the other one in Ohio. I think you can guess which is which, but the twin on the right has abused her skin over the years with excessive sun exposure, and she also happens to be a smoker. The twin on the left, as you can see, has much fewer wrinkles, many fewer brown spots, skin that has much better texture and elasticity. So I think it's quite clear to see that genetics set aside, it's the environment that has caused the severe aging of the twin on the right.
This is really quite a dramatic comparison.
It really is.
I think it's amazing. So how can we avoid this kind of sun damage?
Well, it happens from the moment we're born. I mean, the sun exposure that we get as babies and children and young adults is even more important than the sun exposure that we get as adults and older adults. Now, that's not to say that you should give up on protection from the sun. It's never too late. But certainly warn our kids and our grandkids that it makes a big difference. We now know that sun exposure that occurs before age 18 and any sunburns that occur as young people will increase our chance of skin cancer greatly as we age.
Yes, I've heard that as well. It's sobering. You did mention smoking. How does that damage our skin?
Smoking causes constriction of the tiny vessels of the skin, so in essence that skin is not getting proper nutrition and oxygenation, so that's how we feel damage is caused.
Okay. And the use of a hat, could you please comment on the importance of protecting our scalp as well as our facial skin?
The hat, of course, has typically been the ball cap style. Now we're trying to encourage people to use the wide-brimmed hat, because I can't tell you the number of times I have seen patients with damage on the sides of the face, the cheeks, the ears, the back of the neck. Those are all places that the ball cap cannot protect. So the wide-brimmed hat is by far encouraged, as well as other type of clothing, for example, long sleeves, even gloves on the hands. And there are fabrics made now that are specially designed to prevent sun exposure from going through that fabric. So you might want to even consider that. I know I have a lot of patients that say they don't care to be putting sunscreen on. And so I'll come right back at them and say, well, have you considered some clothing and some fabric?
There's another option.
Absolutely.
That's very good to know. Let's look at another picture comparison as you explain what we are seeing here.
Yes, so obviously the patient is demonstrating a lot of brown spots on the left, and the same patient has undergone some treatments to treat those brown spots. Now, brown spots in and of themselves are certainly not a dangerous thing. They're cosmetically unpleasant, but they are an indication that that patient has had sun damage in those areas. But there are a number of things that could be considered to treat them. I know a lot of patients are concerned about them and don't care to have them. including some topical products, and there are even some procedures, some laser procedures that can be done to exfoliate those brown spots and remove them. And of course, once that treatment is done, you want to do your sun protection to prevent those from recurring.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to know that they are not medically threatening.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. I did read that the skin located around our eyes is the thinnest of the body, and so it shows our age.
It does.
In the beginning.
Yes.
Is there any particular care we should be taking of that area?
I think using sunglasses is probably your best bet there. Certainly the skin around the eyes is so thin that sometimes the use of topical products, sunscreens, and other cosmetics can bother and irritate that thin area. Mm-hmm. So I do recommend a large lens sunglass and one that has a wide frame, because it will protect more of the skin. And of course, the eye is susceptible to sun damage as well.
Yes, we have to keep that in mind too.
Yes.
I believe we will now put up on screen 3 pictures in succession to discuss the different types of skin cancer.
Okay, good.
The first one would be the basal cell.
Yes, so there are 3 kinds of skin cancer, and it's important to know that because they behave quite differently. This type, which is the most common type, and there are probably an estimate of 3 million cases a year of basal cell carcinoma in our country alone.
Really?
So very, very common type, but the good news is basal cell carcinoma is not likely to spread into the system, not even to the lymph nodes, so it's very easily treated most of the time. Now, once in a while you'll get one in a very bad spot, for example an eyelid or a nose or an ear, places where the skin is not redundant, so to remove it could be disfiguring. Mm-hmm. And you do want to treat these because they do grow locally. Even though they don't spread, they can gradually get wider and deeper, and eventually can be difficult to remove if they are let go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's good to call attention to these earlier rather than later.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, our next picture would be of squamous cell.
Yes, and a squamous cell carcinoma is similar to basal cell in that they do both occur on sun-exposed areas, so generally it's the head and the neck, but they can occur in other areas, for example, the legs, the arms. This particular one was on the back of the hand. So the squamous cell carcinoma is a little more worrisome because occasionally those can spread to lymph nodes, and especially if the original tumor is present on a mucosal surface, meaning something like a lip, for example.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Those are more likely to possibly spread. Again, as with the basal cell, the treatment most of the time is surgery, and many times that surgery can be done just in the dermatologist's office, so it's not a hospitalized treatment, but it is, again, the earlier you can catch it, the easier it's going to be to get the entire spot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, always good to know. Our third picture then would be melanoma.
Malignant melanoma is the type of skin cancer that we fear the most. Mm-hmm. That is because it does have the potential to spread locally as well as systemically. It can spread into the lymph nodes, but it can also spread beyond, into the bloodstream, into the liver, the lungs, the brain. So it is potentially a very serious condition. We thankfully do not see this type of skin cancer as often as the first 2 types. Mm-hmm. However, what is alarming is that we are starting to see it more and more, and in younger and younger individuals. So this is not, unlike the first 2 types, this is not a skin cancer of senior citizens. Mm-hmm. This is a skin cancer that we see across all adult age groups, and it is very alarming.
It is alarming. It is alarming. But I think the main message to take away is when you notice a spot, get it taken care of immediately.
Exactly.
And don't let it continue to grow.
Hopefully it'll be a benign spot.
Yes, absolutely. And then that's good news.
Yes.
How important is family history and personal family heritage when you're talking about these kinds of skin conditions?
Incredibly important. As you can imagine, those individuals who do not tolerate the sun well would be those people who are fair in color. Mm-hmm. And those individuals usually have blonde or red hair and light colored eyes. And the opposite end of the spectrum would be the people with dark skin tones and brown eyes. Those individuals are more naturally protected because that color in the skin is nature's way to, it's a natural sunscreen, if you will.
At what age should we start making appointments with dermatologists?
Well, Kristen, it seems that any time after 50 would be a rule of thumb, a rough estimate. Obviously, sun protection is important throughout our entire lives, but it seems that after that age, we do find that all that damage that has accumulated from being out in the sun as young adults and children has finally gotten to the point where it's creating malignancies and pre-skin cancers and true skin cancers. So it depends on the patient's skin type, but I'd say a rough guess would be about age 50 plus. I would recommend.
Do you recommend a total body scan then at that point too?
And typically a dermatologist will ask the patient to disrobe and take a look everywhere because you can have skin cancer even on non-sun exposed areas.
Do you have one parting word and a quick thing to say about the SPF factor of sunscreen?
Yes, SPF. The stronger the number, the more effective the sunscreen, and we like to recommend 50 plus.
50 plus, all right. Dr. Sutton, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you have given so much good information that our viewers will take away with them and be more discerning in their own skincare.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. As always, please remember, rain or shine, it's never too late to live and learn.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, my guest is Lori McAdams of Butheris, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home, who will tell us about the importance and the details of making arrangements for your final wishes. Lori, what is your experience on how well people are doing at making final arrangements for themselves?
Well, Sam, when people retire, they're thinking about taking trips and spending time with their grandchildren and getting all those things done that they haven't gotten done. And so generally the people we see are between 70 and 73. A lot of them know the importance because they've had to deal with someone else who didn't pre-plan their funeral services.
So you're talking about the people who do plan, they come in at a certain age.
Yeah, for the most part.
But many people don't. What do you think that percentage is? You think there's half and half? Or?
I would guess just a guess that probably 30 to 40% do pre-plan.
Do pre-plan. Well, that's good. That's better. Why are making those final arrangements so important to our families and our loved ones?
Well, after someone passes away, families are under a lot of stress. They're dealing with their emotions. They're planning things with their heart instead of their head. And so they don't often know what mom or dad would have wanted. We have an informational piece called 125 Things That Must Be Done on the Most Difficult Day of Your Life. If you're the person who's passed away, it's not difficult for you. It's difficult for those of us who are left behind. So it truly is the last greatest gift you can give your loved ones to get that done.
Well, what's your experience as far as what happens when the families basically, when people don't do their planning?
Well, I'll tell a personal story. My husband, Keith, called me at 2:30 on a Monday afternoon and said, honey, I'm going to get the car washed. I'll be a little late. Well, his coworkers said that he walked his coffee mug out to the car and he came back in and groaned and was gone. So he was 56 and I was 50. We hadn't done any planning. We were too young, or we thought. No one knows when it's their final day. So getting that done in advance is just the most amazing thing.
Yes, it's my understanding that it's kind of chaotic for the family, too, if those final arrangements aren't made. As you said, they have to make quick, emotional decisions and not logical sometimes.
Correct. When we always tell people, you're planning with your head. If you do it in advance, you're planning with your heart afterwards.
Yep. Well, what kind of things can people specify for their final arrangements? I mean, what do they really tell you they need or want?
Well, they can choose absolutely everything, down to, they need to find out or decide if they want to be in a casket or if they want to be viewed, if they want to be cremated. They can decide on if they want a service, a memorial service or a funeral service. They can decide on what they would like for music. We've had everything from George Jones recordings to Plymouth Brass play at services. Some people choose to just have a simple meal afterwards. We've had people that have their loved one's favorite meal. Grandpa liked ice cream, so we'll serve ice cream. We basically say anything within the law we'll take care of for you.
Should people consider their final arrangement before they go to the hospice, or when is there a good time?
Well, it's very, very awkward after somebody is on hospice. People have talked about it, husbands and wives have talked about it, but then once someone's on hospice, it's like planning their death.
Yes.
So it's really awkward, and I have gone to people's houses days and even hours before someone passes away. And if they're incapable of thinking at that time, they don't have their own decisions known.
Yes. And besides that, the younger they are, the less expensive pre-arrangements are going to be.
You're right. So
it
also locks the prices of today's prices in place.
Yes, that's what I understand about that. Well, but folks really don't like to consider final arrangements because of what it implies. So what do you think the best incentive is for people to consider this?
Well, there is a real phobia for people. They think that if they get their plans in place, they are going to die. And quite frankly, the opposite is really true. People feel so much better when they're done. They'll walk out the door saying, we've talked about this for so long. I'm so happy that we finally got it done. So, it's a topic nobody wants to bring up, but it's going to happen to every one of us.
Yes. The folks are told that they should make arrangements for a will and for the power of attorney for final care and other arrangements that reflect what should happen to them. But you don't hear too much about prearranging the funeral itself, really.
Right. And planning for retirement is a smart and necessary part of getting older. Like you say, the attorney can do the will. They can get power of attorney put in place. Your financial advisor can help you make the plans so that your money, for example, will last you. We always say, though, that financial planner and that attorney are not going to be sitting across the table with the funeral director making those plans with you. They'll help you up front, but they won't be the ones sitting there feeling very sad and writing the check.
Well, if an individual is too reluctant to consider making these final arrangements, could family members actually do that sort of thing?
Certainly. In fact, we have many informational pieces on how to talk to your aging parents. What's funny is that most older people have thought of their death. They survived the Depression. They survived World War II. They have seen a lot during their lifetimes. And they've thought about death. It's their adult children. It's those young people that just don't know how to bring it up. And we have informational pieces that talk about how to do that.
Yes, so actually, if they would contact the theorists Maser and Love was the numbers that show on the screen every once in a while, then actually they could get some video or some kind of stuff like that. They wouldn't necessarily even have to come in and consult with you before they start and having some information on that.
What we tell people is planning and getting things done is a two-part process. You know, you want to plan, you want to get all the statistics, all the details written down, and then pre-funding is the second part of it. So you can do all or, you know, you can do one or all of that.
And by you, that means the kids and,
Absolutely.
and, you know, or whoever is concerned about
Right.
this, so that they don't have to do it at a time that's not convenient for. Well, we recently had a guest talking about the Nebraska National Cemetery and how that's going to develop and all that. Are the funeral homes able to, is Bucyrus, Maser, and Love informed enough that they can tell the families, you know, if that guy's a veteran,
Of course.
he can do this, and this is what's included in it and all that, which is actually
we have done a lot of studying on this since the Omaha National Cemetery is, you know, coming to Nebraska. People think, well, I'm a vet, they'll take care of everything. Well, the VA takes care of a vault, the open and close of the grave, and the headstone. But you have to have a funeral home involved because, you know, you have to have a funeral director come and pick up the body. We call that first call. You have to choose a casket. That is not provided. You have to decide if you want your person embalmed or not. We have to file all the necessary paperwork needed for getting a death certificate. You know, so they take care of a lot, but they don't take care of everything.
At all.
Right.
Well, actually, since we're in Lincoln, would the hauling of the remains to the National Cemetery be more expensive than actually the benefits that they get in the vault and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know. It's very much an honor to be buried in a national cemetery. So that's kind of hard to say. I mean, we charge $1.75 outside the city limits. We take people to Minnesota but it's only one way because we only have you one way. Yeah. So, you know, it's not ghastly expensive, but you do have responsibilities that have to be taken care of here first.
That's for sure. Well, again, the emotions of the family, how do families really do a lot of times when they don't have final arrangements? And I mean, do in a lot of cases that they just break up and say, handle it yourself? Or
Well, what happens often is disagreements. I mean, a lot of people that I talk to say, oh, my kids won't fight. Yes. Well, emotions are running so high that they do disagree. You know, one person believes in cremation, one person doesn't. Yeah. I've seen funeral directors walk out of an office and shut the door and say, you make these decisions, I'll be back and we'll get this written down. And that can cause lifelong rifts in families.
Absolutely. That is a huge, huge reason for having the individual, do some of their own arrangements, you know, before they get the family involved in that emotional stage of their life.
In fact, I tell, you know, a husband and wife will come in to pre-plan. Well, we'll go talk to your kids. And I'll say, talk to one trusted child and let them know what you're doing. Because you'll start that argument before you die.
Yeah. Well, I hope the discussion has informed our viewers enough that they can consider what they want and need to do about their final arrangements. And they could receive help from many of the funeral homes, including Bucyrus, Maser, and Love. I would like to thank my guest, Lori McAdams of Bucyrus, Maser, and Love, for telling us about the need and the procedures for making final arrangements. And to remember, it's never too late to live and learn.